That's what this new book starts with. We are really thinking about doing problems without writing anything down. It's almost like if you have a homework problem that says estimate, I want you to put your hands on your head or sit on your hands so you cannot work the problem out. You're estimating. And I know for some of you that's hard because you like to work the problems out. But estimating means just look at the problem, maybe write the problem down and then write the answer. But you're not going to go through common denominators or any of that process. You're estimating. Things you might do in your head are changing from fractions to decimals. There's lots of ways to estimate, but that's just the key today. And before we just do any of the problems, we're going to go into this new book. And the beginning of the new book is about estimating sums and differences. And you guys can see, I think I have a little problem with the smartboard being super oriented. So I'll do my best on this, but it may not line up perfectly today. So these are the different types of problems that they ask you to do. Like they may give you a bunch of fractions, like you see here, there's some fractions. And there's a question that goes with them. And the question here is, which has the greatest sum? And then also, which has the least sum? And after you answer that question, can you decide, is it closer to 1 or 0 or 2? That's the first goal, okay? So I'm going to have you guys go through this process with me. I'm going to call on you. So Bridget, if I asked you to figure out of those 5 fractions, which two have the greatest sum, what would your response be?
9/10 and 4/5.
Okay, did you guys hear 9/10 and 4/5?
Yeah.
So can you give me a little bit of background why you would say 9/10 and 4/5?
So 9/10 and 4/5 are more closer to 1.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time writing on the board because they're both bigger. They're the biggest two, and they're the closest to 1 out of all of those numbers. Okay? So if the question just asks what it's closer to, then you could just answer what it's closer to. Okay? So this isn't really an exercise about getting common denominators and exact answers. It's actually a very productive thing to estimate. It's a really good skill. So since both of those are the biggest fractions out of the 5, they give the biggest sum. And then since they're 9/10 is almost 1, and 4/5 is 8/10, right? So that's close to 1. So together, we would say those are closer to 2. So if we look at the second one, same problem with decimals.
Should call in project back. Oh shoot, I have to get Audrey's text.
We could just have them watch the recording, maybe.
I just thought something.
Okay.
That's fine.
Benny, what do you think? Out of those decimals, which two added together, out of the 5 decimals that you see here, would give the largest sum? You see?
0.125 and 0.75.
So did you do that because it has the most digits?
No, because it was 25 plus 75 is 100.
And we're looking for the biggest number when you add 2 of those. So like, if you think about these as all the same amount of digits, which one's the biggest value? Yeah. And what's the second biggest?
0.7.
So what's going to give the biggest sum then?
Those two.
Those two. See how to do that? The other option is to compare the first digit. Everything in the tens place can help you order. So 9/10 is the biggest first digit, and 7/10 is the next biggest first digit. So the largest sum is going to come from adding 9/10 to 75 hundredths. And then Alicia, would you say that's closer to 0, 1, or 2?
One.
Why 1? The sum. Why is the sum closest to 1? Okay, well then let's think about it. So this is almost what? It's almost 1 already. And then we're adding 7/500ths more. Yeah. So we're beyond 1.5. So since we're beyond 1.5, we're going to say it's closest to 2. Do you see the thinking? Okay, Alicia, pick the smallest sum. What two decimals make the smallest sum?
0.125.
Yeah, 0.125. 0.25, because those are the smallest decimals individually. And then would you say that sum is closer? So think of that as 125 thousandths plus 250 thousandths, or just 125 plus 250. Hayden, is that closer to 0, 1, or 2?
It's closer to 1.
Why? Without writing it down, remember these are estimating. So in your head, think about it, 125 and 250. What do you get? Are you more than 500 or less than 500?
Less than 500, so
Right, less than 500. So 0.5, less than 0.5. That's a half. So it would be closer to 0 because you're not even up to a half yet. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Getting the process better? Okay, Lennon, third one. Which two give the largest sum? What should you look for, Lennon?
which two are the greatest?
Which two are the greatest? Would it help if these were all decimal or all fraction?
Yes.
So, Andrew, you want to do some converting for me? What's this? What's the decimal value of that? Okay, and then Marcus, what's the decimal value of this?
Wouldn't it be like 1? Point. Because it has to go into 10, 5, or 1,000.
So what if you changed it to 10? Right, if you changed it to 10, you'd have to multiply by 2. So 2/10. Okay, and then, Sophie, what's the decimal value of this 3/4? Mm-hmm.
0.75.
Okay, so Lennon, is it a little bit easier now? Because really we're going to focus on looking at the tenths place on all of these. What's the largest number here?
The largest number would be 0.75 or other than 3/4.
Right, so 3/4 is one that we want to include then, right? And what else? Second largest.
0.33.
Yes. Okay, would you say that sum is closer to 0, 1, or 2, Alice?
Probably closer to 1.
Yes. Closer to 1, because 3/4 is about 0.75. It is 0.75, right? So if I added 75 and 33, I'd be a little bit over 100. So if I add 7,500ths and 3,300ths, I'm just a little bit over 1. Okay? What two would make the smallest sum, Benny?
Let's see. 3/10 and 1/5.
3/10 and 1, almost. Look at the decimals too. You're going to use that 1/5.
Oh, the 0.25.
Right. Okay, and so would you say that's closer to 0, 1, or 2?
0.
0, because it's less than a half, right? If a fifth is 2/10, that's like adding 0.2 to 0.25. I'm writing it down so you can see what I'm thinking, but you're supposed to do this with estimation. So try to sit on your hands when you're estimating, especially those of you guys that, like to work everything out. So it's closer to 0. Okay, so part of your homework's just like that. And then part of your homework takes it a step further, and it asks you to actually estimate. So give me a way that you might estimate this, Lauren, while you aren't writing anything down. 2/3 plus a fifth. What's your estimate and why? Yeah, what's your estimate? First, what's it closest to? 0, 1, or 2? 1. Is that a pretty good estimate? Why? Why is that a pretty good estimate? What's 2/3 about? How about exactly 2/3? What is it? What decimal value? So you're thinking this through. What's the decimal value of 2/3? It's a repeating decimal. Don't write anything down. Who knows that repeating decimal? Andrew, what is it? No. Do you know what it is, Alice? It's 0.66, right? So about 0.7. We're going to say it's about. In our head, that's what we're thinking, about. About 0.7 plus 0.2, so that's 0.9. So a good estimate is 1. 1's a good estimate. Okay? So what about this one, Lola?
Hold on.
What would you do first?
Maybe like what it's closest to.
It's a little bit different. Look at the problem a little closer. What do you see? I see mixed numbers. What would you do first?
Maybe, multiply it?
No, because it's an addition. So what I would do is I just add the whole. So in my head, I see 2 and 3, and that's 5. And then 1/3 and 2/3.
That's 3, or 1.
Yeah, so in this case, I actually got the exact answer because estimating is just as easy as getting the exact. Okay? One more. Okay, let's see. Bridget, what's 3/4 about? Okay, and what's it exact? Yeah, decimal wise. Yeah, so 0.75 and 4/3, is it more than 1 or less than 1? So together, what do you think your estimate would be? 0, 1, or 2? About 2. That's how you're going to do your homework tonight.